Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Before we get into it, remember to subscribe and like the video. And yeah, let's get into it. So for the first time in around half a year, we will be doing another 2028 Democratic primary presidential prediction. So first of all, let's talk about the rules, right? Primaries, we kind of know how these work. It's basically every state and territory holds one. There's calendars. Some states hold them together, some individually. The first state that usually holds it is Iowa. This was not the case in 2024. Instead, Iowa held their primary in on March 5th, which is also the day, the first Tuesday of every March, where Democrats hold Super Tuesday. It's the largest delegate kind of group of the Democratic primary, so this was very big in 2024. Obviously, the 2024 Democratic primary wasn't exactly contested because Joe Biden, the incumbent president, was running, so very few candidates attempted to run against him. Yeah, and after every single race, a couple candidates who aren't doing well drop out. So, yeah, let's just see in my prediction who will become the nominee for 2028. So now let's first talk about the candidates, right? First candidate is going to be former California Gavin Newsom, because remember, Gavin Newsom is term limited for 2026, so he will leave office in 2027, and by then he will not be running for no, he will not be in any office. The second candidate is Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg, he is the former mayor of South Bend, Indiana. He is the former Secretary of Transportation under the Biden administration. He also currently is holding no office. He lives in Michigan. He declined to run for Michigan Senate or Michigan Governor, which basically guarantees that he will run for the presidency. The third candidate is Josh Shapiro, the popular governor of Pennsylvania. He will likely, and I think he already is running for re-election, so he will be the incumbent governor of Pennsylvania at this point. Gretchen Whitmer is the fourth candidate. She is the current governor of the state of Michigan. She is term limited for 2026, like Gavin Newsom, and by 2027 she will be out of office, and she will not run for Michigan Senate, which also guarantees that she will run for the presidency. The fifth candidate is the governor of Kentucky. He is term limited, and he will not be able to run in 2027 because Kentucky has those third-year governor elections, so that means he'll be out of office by early 2028. He has also declined to run for Kentucky Senate in 2026, so that is something to look out for. Wes Moore is the governor of the state of Maryland. He is able to run for re-election in 2026 and likely will, so he would be the incumbent governor of Maryland by 2028. J.B. Pritzker, he is the incumbent governor of the state of Illinois. He is not term limited in 2026, which basically means he should be able to still run for the presidency, and he will not be in office in 2020. No, he will still be the governor of Illinois by 2028. The next candidate is the senator from New Jersey, Cory Booker. He is a senior senator from New Jersey. Obviously, senators aren't term limited, and he has already kind of started to hype up his bid for the presidency. The final candidate on this list is Tim Walz, the governor of the state of Minnesota. He is able to run for re-election, and I believe he likely will. He was also the vice presidential candidate for the Democratic primary, Democratic Party, in 2024. Obviously, he lost that election, but I believe he will run for the presidency in 2028. And obviously, we have uncommitted, basically in Democratic primaries, not for Republican primaries, but uncommitted delegates can go uncommitted if they don't want to go towards either candidate. And on some primaries in several states, the uncommitted option is on the ballot. So, yeah, make sure to watch out for that. And I do want to talk about Kamala Harris and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. First of all, Kamala Harris, I don't think she will run. I believe she'll run for California governor and win in 2026. So I don't see her running for 2028 for the presidency. And for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I believe instead she will possibly challenge Chuck Schumer for New York Senate in 2028. And if Chuck Schumer doesn't run for re-election by that point, because he is getting old, I believe AOC will even more likely run for New York Senate instead of the presidency. I do see her having a good chance of running for the presidency in 2032, however. All right, now let's start off. But before we get into that, I do want to talk about Iowa. Iowa Democrats have been trying to get the DNC to place them first once again, because for in 2024 it was New Hampshire and then South Carolina. New Hampshire didn't even count, because it was ran by the state party. But in this 2028 primary, I'm gonna put Iowa first, New Hampshire second, South Carolina third, and so on. Also on the schedule, Florida and Delaware did not hold primaries. Florida was supposed to be on March 19th, so just remember I'm gonna put Florida in here, and Delaware was supposed to be, I think, April 2nd. So yeah, just remember, I'm also going to put those states in there while they're not going to be on the calendar. All right, let's start off with Iowa. Iowa, it's completely proportional. Pete Buttigieg, I believe he'll be able to win the state of Iowa with 10 delegates. A big reason for this is Pete Buttigieg, he somehow won this primary with the most delegates, not with the most votes. He actually lost to Bernie Sanders by around 3%, but he did get the most delegates in 2020. It was a very, very crowded field. You can see all of these different candidates. I believe Pete Buttigieg should have no problem carrying the state of Iowa. I believe some other Midwestern candidates like Tim Walz or Gretchen Whitmer will be able to perform well here as well. I believe Walz will pick up 4 delegates. Gretchen Whitmer will pick up 5. Gavin Newsom, just because he has kind of a nationwide range, I feel like he'll also be able to pick up 5 delegates. Andy Beshear, 3 delegates. Wes Moore, 2 delegates. Josh Shapiro, 3 delegates. J.B. Pritzker, 3 delegates. Cory Booker, 2 delegates. And you know what? We'll give, there's still 3 delegates left. We'll give Gretchen Whitmer 1 and Tim Walz 1. Sorry, Gretchen Whitmer 2 and Tim Walz 1. So after that, Pete Buttigieg is in the lead with 10 delegates. In second place is Gretchen Whitmer with 7. In third place is tied between Tim Walz and Gavin Newsom at 5. In fourth place is a 3-way tie between Andy Beshear of Kentucky, Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, all with 3 delegates. And at the bottom is Cory Booker and Wes Moore with 2 delegates. Uncommitted at 0. Also, I do want to talk about the candidates that were running, but they dropped out before the first contest, which was the Iowa caucus. These are going to be Rahm Emanuel. Wait, I kind of forgot how to pronounce his name, but he actually has been showing signs of running. I don't see anybody supporting him, though. Also, other candidates like Amy Klobuchar, maybe Stephen Smith. Stephen Smith, he has talked about running. Yeah, those are the candidates. There's also going to be a couple more, but those are the main ones that are going to drop out before the first contest. And also remember, when I put a candidate who drops out here, it's going to be like this. That's going to be the symbol of them dropping out. I don't know why I adopted that symbol, but I've always been using that since like last year. Alright, now let's move on to New Hampshire. So none of these candidates, they're worrying yet. Iowa, Pete Buttigieg, he was kind of seen as a favorite here. Gretchen Whitmer performed a bit better than she thought she would. Wes Moore, Cory Booker never really saw a chance in Iowa. But now let's move on to the state of New Hampshire. New Hampshire, much, much different politics than Iowa. Look, New Hampshire in 2020, it went to Bernie Sanders. Pete Buttigieg also did well here, but you also have a moderate like Amy Klobuchar coming in third, which was actually surprising at the time. We're actually going to have the Gretchen Whitmer winning the state of New Hampshire, while Pete Buttigieg comes in second once again, with Tim Walz coming in second as well, with the remaining delegates being split among Cory Booker, Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, and Andy Beshear. J.B. Pritzker and Wes Moore are the only candidates to not obtain any delegates in the state of New Hampshire. Now let's move the rankings. Once again, Tim Walz overtakes Gavin Newsom for third place. Cory Booker moves up and is now tied for fifth, with Josh Shapiro, Andy Beshear, and J.B. Pritzker and Wes Moore lacking behind at 3 and 2 delegates respectively. All right, now let's move on to South Carolina. So, in 2020, the thing that really revived Joe Biden's campaign, because he came in last among the major candidates in New Hampshire, he didn't really have an outstanding kind of performance in Iowa. And third this year wasn't Nevada, it was actually South Carolina. Jim Clyburn, the very popular representative Democrat from the state of South Carolina, endorsed Joe Biden, which gave a lot of the African American base support for Biden here, and he came with almost 50% of the vote. He came with 39 delegates to Bernie Sanders' only 15, and remaining candidates getting 0. So that was very big for Joe Biden. And in this kind of timeline, Jim Clyburn, he's gonna endorse. Let's go with Wes Moore. Okay, Wes Moore, I feel like he does really align with Jim Clyburn a lot in a lot of those policies. Not exactly progressive Clyburn. He's nowhere near to a progressive. So you want to endorse somebody like, like Tim Walz, but yeah, Clyburn endorses Moore, which gives him a boost, not as big as Biden's, because he wasn't doing as well. He didn't have as much of name recognition like Biden, but he does do well among African American voters. Second place in here comes Gavin Newsom with 12 delegates. South Carolina is weird with delegates, though. Cory Booker, where is he? Cory Booker comes in with 9 delegates, and the rest is split among Josh Shapiro. Josh Shapiro, 4 delegates, and where is he? Yeah, Andy Beshear with 10 delegates. I do want to talk about how Pete Buttigieg has a horrible rating among African Americans. So, yeah, in a poll by Emerson, he was actually leading in the primary, but African Americans had him only at 1%, I think, or 0. I forgot, but yeah, that was definitely very interesting. Now, Wes Moore is in second place with that massive boost in South Carolina. Gavin Newsom is now in first with 22 delegates. Andy Beshear is in third. See, here's the thing. South Carolina, it has more delegates than Iowa, more delegates than New Hampshire. So that's really important for candidates to do well in South Carolina. We've seen that before. And then J.B. Pritzker is only at 3 delegates. Okay. Now let's keep moving on. We're actually going to have J.B. Pritzker drop out here. Because, you see, he has no future. Like, you can't win any, he's not going to win Nevada. He's not going to win any of the other states before Super Tuesday. He really never had a chance. He just ran. And plus, he's going to have that position as Illinois governor for 2 more years anyway. All right. The next state is obviously going to be the state of Nevada, and then we have Michigan, which is going to be competitive between Gretchen Whitmer and Pete Buttigieg. They're both from here, but Whitmer does have the edge because she's actually done stuff in Michigan. But yeah, let's move on to the state of Nevada. Gavin Newsom, he does well here. A big Hispanic base here. He wins 12 delegates. Pete Buttigieg, he does fine here, just doesn't really overperform expectations. And Cory Booker, he pulls 5 delegates. Gretchen Whitmer, Pete Buttigieg, 7 delegates. Uncommitted. I think this is Nevada is one of the states that have uncommitted on the ballot. It pulls 2 delegates here, and there's still 10 remaining delegates. We'll give some of these. Newsom put some into Buttigieg, and we'll give the remaining ones we'll give 1 to Newsom and 1 to Buttigieg. There we go. Newsom expands his lead at 37 delegates. Booker is now in third. Buttigieg is now in second. He climbs a couple ranks. And yeah. So Newsom's at 37. Buttigieg is at 25. Booker's 22. Moore 20. Beshear 15. Whitmer 12. Walz 9. Shapiro 9. And now we move on to the state of Michigan. Michigan, Whitmer takes a pretty big first place. 32 delegates here. This is a big state. 117 delegates. I think it's more than... Sorry, no, not more than the rest of the previous states combined, but kind of closer to that. Buttigieg, he comes in second at 25 delegates. Newsom with 14. Tim Walz at 16. Uncommitted at 30. I think these are going to be some of the more Democratic Socialist voters. Andy Beshear pulls 10. Moore at 11. And Booker at 6. Alright. So that definitely changes the rankings a lot. And somehow Newsom just barely keeps that first place by a single delegate. Whitmer obviously climbs a lot of ranks to third with 44 delegates. Cory Booker drops a place to Wes Moore, who is now leading him by 3. Beshear and Walz are tied, and Shapiro just lags behind. He was not able to cross the delegate threshold to obtain delegates, which really hit for Josh Shapiro. Like, Josh Shapiro, he's doing good in national polling, but these states were just not the right environment for him to win, so he drops out. Also, by the way, Pritzker, when he dropped out, he endorsed Gavin Newsom. Shapiro, he has now dropped out, and he endorses Andy Beshear. I think this is kind of expected, if you ask me. And yeah, it moves on. Now, we go to Super Tuesday. A lot of primaries. We'll go by alphabetical order here. Let's start in Alabama. Alabama, I do want to say, basically all of the southern Super Tuesday states went to Joe Biden because of that Clyburn endorsement, and I feel like that could be the same for Wes Moore here. Just Wes Moore doesn't do as well. Wes Moore, he gets 18 delegates here. And remember, not everybody is going to get delegates because there are some pretty tough delegate thresholds in Super Tuesday states. Gavin Newsom gets 12. Buttigieg does able to pull 5. And Andy Beshear, he pulls 13. We'll give a couple more to Gavin Newsom there. Yeah, Gavin Newsom does fine in the South, if you ask me. American Samoa. So remember, territories do have primaries as well. Gavin Newsom, he's able to win 4 of the 6 delegates here. The rest are to Cory Booker. Arkansas, same kind of thing with Alabama. Moore pulls 12 delegates. Nobody gets delegates. No, Buttigieg doesn't get delegates. 8 delegates to Gavin Newsom. 4 delegates. I feel like Beshear does fine in the South. He pulls 5 delegates. And Booker pulls 3. And then, yeah. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Sorry. California. Big. Largest state, obviously. 424 delegates. Gavin Newsom's home state. He pulls 141 delegates. No, I feel like it's going to be more. 173 delegates. Buttigieg gets 111. I feel like this kind of resembles the national environment a bit. Booker pulls 35. Tim Walz. I feel like Walz is going to be the symbol for Democratic socialism in this primary. Because there's not exactly a very progressive candidate. Like, you don't have AOC. Obviously, Bernie Sanders is going to be kind of too old at this point. So, yeah. And you have also, like, you don't have any really good candidates if AOC doesn't run for the Democratic Socialists, to resemble the more lefty side of the Democratic Party. But yeah, see, that gives Gavin Newsom a big delegate boost. And let's continue with Super Tuesday. Colorado. Colorado, this is an interesting one because if we go here, sorry, Arkansas, yeah, we did this. California went to Sanders, so that, yeah, Colorado. Colorado went to Bernie Sanders. I feel like it's kind of going to be a battle between Walz and three-way battle between Walz, Newsom, and Buttigieg here. I say Buttigieg comes in second. Walz comes in first. Actually, I think it's going to be a closer first here. Yeah, that's good. And Whitmer takes... Yeah, everybody gets some more delegates because not everybody crosses the threshold. And yeah, that's good. That's good. Sorry, but replace Newsom's. Yeah. So, there we go. Colorado goes to Tim Walz. Iowa. Sorry, not Iowa because we already did that one. Maine. Maine, this one's kind of like New Hampshire. Walz comes with 7 delegates. Whitmer comes with 9. And Pete Buttigieg comes in second with 8 delegates. Gretchen Whitmer wins here. She's kind of winning these two smaller states, the Northeast. Maine, Massachusetts. Massachusetts is a less progressive state, more liberal, I would say. Westmore does fine here, 24 delegates. Walz, 13, 14. Cory Booker, 23 delegates. Buttigieg, wait, no, let's... Alright, there we go. Pete Buttigieg wins the state of Massachusetts. That's a second state in his column. Minnesota, obviously Tim Walz carries here. His home state. Gretchen Whitmer does fine. Newsom does okay. And then Pete Buttigieg. Yeah. There we go. Second state for Tim Walz of the night. North Carolina, this is going to kind of have the same result as South Carolina. Westmore wins here, not by as much. Pete Buttigieg gets 0 delegates. Gretchen Whitmer, actually, I can't see that. Andy Beshear actually comes in second place here instead of Newsom, which is interesting. And those are some extra delegates for Westmore. Oklahoma. So this is actually interesting. I feel like, because Oklahoma, it actually went to, I believe, Elizabeth Warren, I think. But she is, Elizabeth Warren did do, she did pretty horrible here, actually. It went to Joe Biden. Not by as much as some other southern states, but Elizabeth Warren, she was from Oklahoma and she didn't do well. I feel like Oklahoma, it's going to come down to between maybe, Oklahoma, I think Gavin Newsom pulls it off here instead of Westmore, because it doesn't have as much of an African-American population as the rest of the southern states. Walz also does fine here, I feel like. And then Pete Buttigieg takes a couple. Tennessee, now this is kind of like the rest of the southern states for Westmore. 63 delegates. I feel like Andy Beshear actually does well here. I'll say that. Not going to be a big win for Moore. Then, yeah. There we go. Andy Beshear kind of pulling ahead. Now, a bunch of candidates are pulling ahead now, if you ask me. Texas. So, Gavin Newsom, I feel like he does well. Moore, he does okay. Obviously not a big African-American population. Pretty big, but still not like the same kind of big as Alabama or Arkansas or South Carolina. Andy Beshear, he does fine. I'll give some more to you. Pete Buttigieg, he does okay here. Walz. Actually, no, I feel like he doesn't do well. Walz doesn't get any delegates. Yeah, that's fine, if you ask me. Utah, kind of the same situation with Colorado, except Buttigieg is able to pull it off this time. Yeah, there we go. Vermont, Whitmer takes it home with Walz coming there, and yeah. And the last state before the end of Super Tuesday is going to be the state of Virginia. Gavin Newsom takes it like this. Beshear gets a couple. Booker takes a couple. And Buttigieg takes the rest. And yeah, that's the end of Super Tuesday. So Newsom is in first with 499 delegates. Buttigieg in second with 336. Westmore in third with 235. Andy Beshear in fourth with 180. Walz in fifth with 167. Whitmer in sixth with 119. And Cory Booker in last place with 98. He was unable to pick up a single state. Not surprising, but he does see the end of his campaign here. He drops out and endorses, let's go, Westmore. Gretchen Whitmer, she also drops out. Sure, she won a couple states, but she was not able to pull a lot of delegates from anywhere besides where she won. So that's also a big negative for her, and she drops out and endorses Pete Buttigieg. Now, the rest of the candidates do see some future, but Westmore, his path is kind of coming to an end because he doesn't really see anywhere to win besides maybe the rest of the southern states as well as Maryland and Delaware. But yeah, not good for Westmore here. So let's continue with the state of Hawaii. Also, if you enjoy like my 2028 like primary videos, you would also really enjoy my 2020 election timeline. It's kind of like my 2024 like CNN election nights, except they're kind of different. You can go check them out. Just search up like 2020 election timeline episode 1. Maybe something will pop up. We'll see. Just try it out. Hawaii. Gavin Newsom, he pulls it off. Cory Booker's name still remains on the ballot, and he pulls 5 delegates here. And Tim Walz pulls the remaining 7. Now we go to Democrats abroad for the March 12 primaries. So Democrats abroad basically means all the Democrats that are currently not in the United States. So they kind of get like 13 delegates, not proportional to the population, but still enough. Gavin Newsom wins it. I feel like Democrats who are abroad are more socialist. Am I wrong? Buttigieg gets 3. No, Walz and Newsom tie for Democrats abroad. Georgia, this one kind of easily goes to Westmore here. Westmore. Not a lot of candidates get delegates here. Only Newsom, Beshear, and Moore. Mississippi. Kind of the same circumstance. Yeah. There we go. North Mariana Caucasus. I feel like Newsom just takes it all. I don't see anybody winning the territories besides Newsom, to be honest. Washington, West Coast State, Newsom kind of handily wins this one. Can't lie. Uncommitted pulls 2 delegates here. Tim Walz gets 34. Actually, no, it's not that close. There we go. And that's the end of the March 12th primaries. Gavin Newsom remains in first, expands his lead, is now over 612 delegates. Pete Buttigieg is at 360. Westmore 296. Andy Beshear 214. Walz 204. So, I feel like Beshear can't actually win any states if you ask me. So, here's how it's gonna go. I'm pretty sure, nobody drops out because all of these candidates are pretty strong. So they continue, and the next primary is going to be Arizona. Um, so Arizona, it's closer than any of the other West Coast states, but Gavin Newsom just kind of handling win it here. Gavin Newsom, he takes 25 delegates, and also unlike the Republican primary, these aren't winner take all, because Arizona is winner take all on the Republican side. So yeah, remember that. Buttigieg, he does pull some. Andy Beshear pulls some, but ultimately Newsom just start carrying a bunch of these states here. Also remember, a Democrat would need to pull enough delegates before the primary. No, before these super delegates. Before the primary ends and before the super delegates are put in, cause you would need 1976 delegates to win the nomination before superdelegates are counted. So superdelegates are kind of a backup, and I'll explain if nobody gets in 1976. That's the magic number. Illinois. This was J.B. Pritzker's state, but he endorsed Gavin Newsom. So Gavin Newsom doesn't narrowly win it here. But Pritzker isn't even that popular in Illinois, if you ask me. Beshear picks up some. This one is pretty close. Buttigieg comes in second. Yeah, Westmore gets that. Yeah, there we go. Illinois, kind of another boost for Gavin Newsom. Kansas, this one's interesting. Tim Walz, I'd say he wins here. These kind of Midwestern states are good for progressives. Buttigieg, there we go. Kansas, that's. I feel like Walz is able to pick up this entire little belt of states here, all the way over to maybe Idaho. Ohio. So Ohio, this one's interesting. I feel like Beshear, this might be his best state besides Indiana and Kentucky. He pulls 32 delegates. Gavin Newsom with 26. Pete Buttigieg wins another state finally, with Walz winning the remaining delegates. Newsom actually comes in fourth place in Ohio. This is actually Buttigieg's only third state. It's just because he was winning good enough delegates in states that he doesn't win to be in second. Yeah, that's kind of the same case for Andy Beshear. So, that's the end of the March 19th primaries, and that is the end for Andy Beshear. He was not able to pick up any states, and that's kind of a sign. Sure, he's in fourth place, but he knows that's not enough to win the nomination. So he decides to drop out and endorses Wes Moore for the nomination. Now we keep going, right? And the next state is going to be the state of Louisiana. Louisiana, kind of the last southern state that Wes Moore is guaranteed to win. Wes Moore, he pulls 16 delegates. Yeah, and Beshear is still on the ballot, remember that. He just doesn't win that many. He takes 4 delegates in the state of Louisiana. So then there is the state of Missouri. Missouri, I think it's going to be the same result as Kansas here. Walz is good. Buttigieg does better, actually. Wes Moore picks up a couple. And then Newsom. Wait, that's not enough. The rest to Newsom. So that's Buttigieg's his fourth state. Sorry, fifth state. I totally forgot about the state of Utah, which also went to Pete Buttigieg. Yeah, so that's gonna be his fifth state. Some more delegates for him, just not coming close to beating Gavin Newsom, really. And Wes Moore ends his campaign. He had the momentum, he just wasn't able to use it correctly to have massive wins in the southern states. Because that's a problem for people who had their popularity in the South. They need, like, actual progress elsewhere, because usually they don't get all of the delegates in the South. It wouldn't be enough either way. So Westmore is out of the race. Okay, North Dakota. This one's interesting. Oh, sorry, I forgot to do Florida on March 19th. So sorry, guys. Florida, Buttigieg, Westmore. Newsom wins it with the Hispanic population, and yeah. Okay, that's the result from Florida. So sorry about that. Oh god. Okay. Um. Sorry. Where? North Dakota. Yeah. This one's gonna go to Tim Walz. Actually, Gavin Newsom doesn't pick up any delegates here. He isn't able to cross the delegate threshold like most other states. So, yeah, that's gonna be the case in North Dakota. Connecticut. This one's gonna go to Gavin Newsom because nobody's splitting the vote for Newsom, because those votes are going to go to Newsom now, and Pete Buttigieg is able to pick up those delegates. Tim Walz counts with 6 delegates in the state of Connecticut. Sorry, New York. I feel like this one is going to go to Gavin Newsom. Yeah, it's kind of hard for Buttigieg or Walz to win any of the big states, if I have to be totally honest. Rhode Island, this one's going to go to Buttigieg. There we go. And then there's Wisconsin, which does go to Tim Walz. So I think that's the end of the April 2nd primaries, and Newsom has officially crossed 1,003 delegates. So, yeah, there's that. Pete Buttigieg, he is not doing very well, to say the least. And Tim Walz has now dropped out of the race because he really saw Wisconsin as his last winnable state, even though he could do well in South Dakota and Nebraska, but those don't have many delegates. So that's the end of the run for Tim Walz here. So it's now going to be between Pete Buttigieg and Gavin Newsom. And what's interesting is that in current national polling, those are kind of the top 2 candidates at the moment. So yeah, that is something to talk about. Oh, so there's Delaware. Sorry, guys. That goes to Gavin Newsom. Tim Walz does not pick up delegates here. Okay, so now it's just between Newsom and Pete Buttigieg. So Buttigieg is gonna look how he does with those Walz votes, because Walz endorses Buttigieg. He might not see a path for him. So then there's Alaska. Alaska goes to Pete Buttigieg. I feel like it would have went to Walz if he didn't drop out. But yeah, with that endorsement from Walz, he does win. He also wins the state of Wyoming. These aren't that surprising. Pennsylvania. See, this is going to be big. Josh Shapiro, after Andy Beshear dropped out, he endorsed Gavin Newsom. So, Pete Buttigieg gets 67 delegates to Newsom 79, which is a big win for Gavin Newsom here. And after that, we skip to Puerto Rico. Gavin Newsom wins all 51 delegates here. So, Pete Buttigieg officially drops out of the race. So, he sees no path, really. Sure, he could maybe win in a miracle for him in a contested convention. I'll explain how that would work. But first, all remaining delegates go to Gavin Newsom. All of these. And there we go. And for the super delegates, all of them will go to Gavin Newsom as well. And there it goes. Gavin Newsom wins 2,408 delegates. Pete Buttigieg comes in second after dropping out with 781 delegates. Tim Walz with 402. Wes Moore with 392. Andy Beshear with 290. Gretchen Whitmer with 119. Cory Booker with 103. Shapiro with 9. J.B. Pritzker with 3. And uncommitted delegates have a total of 7 delegates. So, the candidates who won states were Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, Tim Walz, Wes Moore, and Gretchen Whitmer. Andy Beshear, although coming ahead of Whitmer, won no states. So there's really no doubt that the Democratic primary in 2028 will be contested. But yeah, definitely interesting here. I feel like Gavin Newsom will be the nominee so far, in my opinion. Pete Buttigieg will definitely put up the biggest fight. I just don't feel like Democratic Socialists in 2028 will have a good candidate if AOC doesn't run, because I really feel like AOC is going to run for New York Senate instead. But anyways, thank you for watching. Like the video, subscribe. This was a 40-minute video. I think it's going to be the longest video I've ever recorded of me just talking. But please subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching once again, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.